Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Monday, the 18th day of September, 2023, Monday of the 24th week of the year, the 24th week in Ordinary Time. Again, more than halfway through our fall and winter, summer and fall, sorry. Summer and fall, winter ordinary time. So the end of the liturgical year is approaching soon. And so just to kind of get beware of that as our liturgical year continues to move. It is the midpoint of the month of September. And so for the Diocese of Raleigh, that is always Priest Retreat. And so it is here happening in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, south of Wilmington. And it is happening right over there at the Blockade Runner Hotel, right behind me, over there. And so for all this week, Abbot Placid from the Benedictine Monastery that's over on the other side of North Carolina. God, I forget his name. But he's here. He's here to be the retreat master. And so pray for the priests, the diocese, as they are on retreat this weekend. A lot of services are suspended during this week in various parishes, but there are priests who are on call if there's necessity or need to have a priest present. So just remember that. So storms yesterday. If you live here on the coast, a little bit better today. Very quite beautiful today. So changeable weather though all this week. So it'll be sunny some days, thunderstorms others, and all kinds of things like that. But it is we're moving towards the end of summer, which will happen over this next weekend. So we have to expect this kind of things. So on this Monday of the 24th week of the year, the letter to Timothy continues. Remember, there are two letters to Timothy. This is the first one that Paul writes. Again, Timothy, that bishop who Paul is trying to help to become the best bishop possible. And again, all this is, but Paul has to affirm his credentials all the time because they know him, they know of him. Some may not trust him still because, again, he was somebody who persecuted Christians and things like that. So he constantly has to kind of reinforce his credentials. And so this part of the letter just goes into Paul, saying why it is that God has chosen him and what it is that he, sees being done and why he hopes continues to be done, but that Paul has the authority to manage this and to sort of make suggestions and observations on it because God has appointed this role and this responsibility to him. And he even says, this is true, I'm not lying. So again, you have to read these letters, not as if they are sent from heaven, but they are written by human beings who are trying to get something done or something across. And sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. So again, trying to make sure that Timothy is the best bishop possible and understands what his role is. And again, and one thing that always has to be a part of this as the letter begins is praying for all kinds of people. Is praying for even kings and emperors and things like that. So the sense in which prayer is not just given to Christians only and Christians alone, but the prayer that Christians are supposed to offer to each other or to God is for all the world, for everybody, which we sometimes tend to forget. We always think that we're praying for ourselves, and we're not praying for ourselves. That's ridiculous and stupid. Well, it's important to, but we are also called to be witnesses for others and witnesses for the world, and you can do that by praying. And Paul suggests that Timothy maintain that or begin that. In Luke's Gospel today, we have Luke's interpretation of what happened with that servant who was sick and dying. Now, sometimes it is of a synagogue official. This in Luke's Gospel, because he's writing to non-Jews, that it is referring to the Gentiles. It is a centurion, a Roman centurion, who is a good man, it seems, who built the synagogue for the people in Capernaum, and he has a servant who is sick, and he wants the servant healed, but again, he doesn't want to waste Jesus' time. So that great phrase, Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, blah, 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 blah. Again, we look at that as basically saying at the pinpoint in which you're supposed to go receive communion, make sure that you realize that, you shouldn't get it. You shouldn't get it. And that's not what that thing is saying. It is saying that even with our own issues and difficulties, because this is what the centurion says, even though he says that he's not worthy for Jesus to come under his roof, he knows that if he says something, it will be done. And so he doesn't have to have Jesus in proximity. Well, that's what that means when we say it at Mass. Again, it means that God can get stuff done whether or not we are present, or whether or not we are there at Mass, whether or not we are there in front of the Blessed Sacrament praying, whatever. Jesus gets things done because Jesus gets things done. And we have to kind of remember that. And because of that great faith that the centurion has as a model for Jews who are becoming Christians and even Christians today, the servant is healed. The servant is healed. And again, and that's what we have to really take away from this. too many times we have to go to the churches, and that's where we will find God. You do not find God in churches, well, alone. And sometimes you don't find God in churches at all. Believe me, I've seen many of them. And so basically, God is everywhere. And basically, the call and the request to ask God to let something be done, with our faith being the one that motivates that, then that something can be done. We have to trust that. We have to believe that because God says that is how it is done. And so whatever we want, we need to ask God for that. And God then rewards, or God then offers, God then installs in God's time, with however God understands the solution to be necessary and to be needed. A blessed day, St. Francis and people of God. Pray for the priest of the priest retreat. May the Lord give you his peace.